Next, on sainthood, Father Guido Sarducci.
You know, to be a saint in the Catholic Church, you have to have 4 miracles. 4 proven miracles. That's the rule. It's always been like that. 4. Then there's Mother Seton. She comes along, 3 miracles are proven. Hey. But the Pope waves the 4th miracle. Just waves it. And you know why? It's political. She's an American. We've got Italians who have done 40, 50, 60 miracles. But they can't get in because there are too many, church has too many Italian saints. Yeah. Then, this woman comes along, and she does 3 lousy miracles. And I understand 2 of them were card tricks.
The Great Train Robbery.
Quick introduction. This was a skit originally done by a group called Beyond the Fringe. 4 Britishers with far too much time and beer on their hands. They were sort of John the Baptist to Monty Python, early 60s. This was done at a time when something happened in England called the Great Train Robbery, when an endearing bunch of stumblebums held up a train in the middle of the afternoon and stole about £3 million, most of which was in convenient small bills, by the simple expedient of slipping a glove over the green light of the signal and hot wiring a battery into the red light. Then things proceeded to fall apart. The guy they had hired to drive the engine turned out not to know how to drive the engine. Nevertheless, they managed to unload the bundle. Most of the money was never recovered. It would add up to about $80 million in today's money, by the way. And the police later found that they had taken time off when instant flight was advisable to actually sit down and play a game of Monopoly using real money. As expatriate Canadian, I'm proud to say that 2 of them escaped from prison. The authorities were Keystone cops as well. And one of them ended up in Montreal, where he was finally caught in 1968. The other one made it to Brazil. No extradition. And isn't this heartwarming? In 2001, he voluntarily returned to Britain, explaining he wanted to walk into a Margate pub and buy a pint of bitter. Instead, he was promptly jugged. And for all his good intentions, he is ironically the only one of the original 15 who is still in jail.
The Great Train Robbery of over £3 million continues to baffle the British police.
Good evening.
However, we have here with us in the studio tonight the Deputy Head of New Scotland Yard, Sir Arthur Smith.
Good evening.
Good evening. And I'm going to ask him just a few questions about the train robbery.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Sir Arthur.
Good evening.
I am going to ask you just a few questions about the train robbery, if I may.
Good evening. Well, I'd like to make one thing quite clear at the outset. When you speak of a train robbery, this in fact involved no loss of train. It was merely what I like to call the contents of the train which were pilfered. We haven't lost a train since, the winter of 1946, I think it was. The year of the great snows. We mislaid a small one. They're very hard to lose, you see, being so bulky. A train is an enormous thing compared, for example, to a small jewel. A tiny pearl, for example, might fall off a lady's neck and disappear into the grass or the gravel or wherever she was standing. The sea, even, and disappear underwater, whereas an enormous train with its huge size and great plume of steam is in a totally different category.
Yes, I think you've made your point rather well, Sir Arthur. Who do you think may have perpetrated this awful crime?
We believe this to be the work of thieves. And I'll tell you why. The whole pattern is extremely reminiscent of past robberies where thieves were found to be involved. The telltale loss of property, the snatching away of the money substances, it all points to thieves.
So you think thieves are responsible?
Good heavens, no. I feel that thieves are totally irresponsible. Ghastly people who go around snatching your money.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate that, Sir Arthur.
You may appreciate that, but most people don't. If you like having your money snatched, you must be rather an odd fish, I think.
Who do you think is behind the criminals?
Oh, we are, considerably. Can't seem to catch up with the wretches.
Who do you think is the organizing genius behind the crime?
Well, now, of course, you're asking me who the organizing genius behind the crime is.
You are a man of very acute perception, Sir Arthur.
Well, let me say this. We think it's a mindermast.
A mindermast?
A mindermast, yes.
What exactly is a mindermast?
Well, a mindermast. Mindermast is the code word we use at Scotland Yard to describe a mastermind. We don't like to use the word mastermind as that depresses the men to think they're up against that, so we call it a mindermast. Futile endeavor to deceive ourselves. But we are using the wonderful equipment known as the identikit. Are you familiar with that?
I am, yes. Isn't that where you piece together the face of the criminal?
Not entirely, no. We're only able to piece together the appearance of the face of the criminal. We can't actually piece the face together. I wish we could. Because, of course, once you've captured the criminal face, the other criminal parts are not hard to find. The criminal body situated directly beneath the criminal face, connected, of course, by the criminal neck. But through the wonderful system of the identikit, or l'identique as the French foppishly call it, through this system we have pieced together an extremely good likeness of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Looks just like him. Simply striking.
So His Grace is your #1 suspect?
Well, let me put it this way. His Grace is the man we're currently beating the living daylights out of down at the yard, yes.
Then he's still your #1 suspect?
No. I'm happy to say that the Archbishop, God bless him, no longer bears any resemblance to the picture we're built up. He's changed. I think for the better, he thinks for the worse. Difference of opinion.
I believe some of the stolen money has been recovered, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
What's happening to that?
We're spending that as quickly as we can. It's a short life, but a merry one down at the yard. Good night.
Good night, Sir Arthur.